Hello there, Jerome here from JeromeFitness. Now, I've been vegan for over 2 years now, but there are some things that I dislike about what vegans say about the lifestyle that I simply think are not true, or at least are not very effective to say. The first thing that I dislike about what vegans say is that they often use epidemiological studies that show that there is a correlation between a vegan lifestyle and health, but not necessarily a causation, meaning that you can see that vegans and vegetarians are healthier compared to omnivores in general, but that can also be because vegans and vegetarians are more likely to live a healthy lifestyle, exercising more, eating healthier, eating less fat, eating less meat, which is of course one of the things that is very important for your health. But it doesn't necessarily mean that someone who does eat an omnivore diet but only eats meat or fish every once in a while cannot be as healthy as the average vegan. Now, that brings me to healthy foods. Now, a lot of people say, or actually a lot of vegans say, that all vegan food is healthy. Obviously, this is not the majority, because a lot of them do know that there are a lot of plant-based foods that are not healthy for you. To name one, coconut oil. Despite popular belief, it is not a health food. Coconut oil has a lot of saturated fat, and the saturated fat is chemically different than that of processed meat or meat in general, but it still is not good for your health. Now, there are a lot more foods, such as vegan burgers or French fries, that are vegan but are not necessarily healthy. They also say that vegans do not get sick. Now, I've been vegan for 2 years now, and I've had a common cold twice. So once a year, which is normal for me. I had that before I went vegan. Sometimes there were some years that I skipped a common cold, and I almost never get a flu. So that doesn't really prove to me that you cannot get sick as a vegan. Then up next, which I think is the most obnoxious thing to say, namely that broccoli has more protein in it than chicken. Now, the comparison is in terms of calories, which is not really fair, because there is far less calories in broccoli than there is in chicken. So they say that in 100 calories there is a lot more protein in broccoli than there is in chicken. So that is really an unfair comparison, in my opinion, and it is simply a lie, or at least misleading people to think that there is more protein in broccoli. Because if you're going to look at the 100 gram based foods, then chicken by far wins from broccoli. It doesn't mean that it is healthier, it just means that it has more protein in it than broccoli. So stop using that comparison. It's simply a lie, and it misleads people. Now, this is something that I struggle with on an ethical standpoint, namely feeding your cat or your dog vegan food. Now, obviously, I think that if you're a vegan, then it's very tough to buy meat for an animal that you take care of, a pet. But in that case, I think that you shouldn't take a pet to start with, because first of all, most vegans have the opinion that they should not own animals to start with. Most vegans do not like zoos. They don't want to enslave animals, but then they do take a pet, which to me doesn't really make a lot of sense. Now, speaking of herbivores, carnivores and omnivores, this is probably one of the most controversial topics, namely whether or not we are carnivores or herbivores. At least that is what some vegans state, that we cannot possibly be carnivores because we don't have big teeth, stuff like that. Obviously, we are not carnivores. Even if we were not herbivores, in that case we would be omnivores, because we can eat both. We can eat plant-based foods as well as animal-based foods. We actually physically can. Then the question remains, are we naturally omnivores or are we herbivores? Now, personally, I believe we are actually omnivores naturally, which does not mean that we cannot live on a plant-based herbivore diet. And I actually think that can be more optimal than these days, the omnivore diet these days, or at least the way most human beings interpret it at the moment. Now, They also say that a lot of animals, that herbivores cannot make vitamin C, which is nonsense. Most animals can make vitamin C themselves, but there are only a couple of animals such as human beings themselves, as well as guinea pigs and some other small groups of animals that cannot make vitamin C. So there are actually a lot of things which I will go into more depth on in a different video, but there are a lot of reasons to believe that we are naturally omnivores, but we can actually make the switch to a herbivore diet. That's it for this video. Thank you for watching. Subscribe for more, thumbs up, and I will see you next time.